Hi, my name's Phil, and welcome to LabourVision, where we talk about Labour policies in a way which they don't always do themselves. This week, there's been a focus from Labour on small businesses, and I want to focus in on their policy for banking hubs. Now, these will be essential for both small businesses and individuals who live outside the big towns and cities like myself. So, if like me, you live in a community that's, it's a sizable population, but it's not a major town or city, you may have noticed local banking services have been disappearing. I've lived in two such places and neither has any local banking services left at all, if you don't count the post office. The argument from banks is that it costs £600,000 a year to run a local branch, which doesn't make business sense if you've just got a handful of customers now using it, due to the march of technology. There is now a much reduced need for local banking services. There was a time when you'd have to go to the bank every week. Now that's not the case. Some people just basically never go to the bank. And so you can see the argument, you can see why local branches have been disappearing in a sense. Most people don't use cash very much at all these days, so there's less need to pay in things like loose change. Cheques are less common, so paying those in way less common as well. So sure, local branches are poorly used, and from a business sense, you can't justify the £600,000 a year upkeep. However, two caveats here. The first is there are some people who absolutely rely on the use of regular cash, and having to make a long journey to use a bank in the next town is onerous. The second is, I get how business executives prioritise profits for their company. That's what they're paid to do. But governments should prioritise people. The Tories have done nothing about the decline of local banks, but Labour are taking it seriously. So seriously, in fact, that they're not even saying that banks must provide these local branches. They've got a better proposal. But before I get onto that, I'm going to say there exists a justification for expecting banks to offer necessary services. See, my attitude is that businesses exist to make a profit, yes, but we should demand that they justify themselves to society as well. They have to be beneficial to society. I'll give you an example using, say, railways. Private rail companies cancel services all the time. They come up with some pathetic excuse. Oh, sorry, we didn't have the staff. Well, hire more staff. They do it because it's more profitable. What they're really doing is cancelling services that are not that profitable for them. Now, I don't blame the companies as such for doing it, because their executives only keep their jobs by generating larger profits than an alternative executive would. No, this is down to the government. They should be answerable to the public, not shareholders. A good government would insist that all services are run with automatic fines for not having them on. Make the fine large enough that it's actually just cheaper to pay someone to run that train than it is to cancel the service. I would do the same with banks. If they want their licenses, they can make sure that everyone has reasonable access to their services. Banks do not get to claim that they've got very tight profit margins. And this is where Labour's policy comes in. Banking hubs. Now, they're not insisting that banks provide a local branch at a cost of like £600,000 a year for a few customers. That doesn't work anyway, because what if it's not your bank? They're proposing a hub which will be shared by multiple businesses and banks, a bit like how post offices can be located inside convenience stores in many places, like just down the road from me. Only this involves more businesses sharing that space. The cost will be much less, £200,000 a year, according to Labour's Shadow Business Minister Jonathan Reynolds. And that cost itself, it's not like you're saying to the banks, okay, instead of £600,000 a year, it's £200,000 a year. No, that is the cost of the entire hub. It's shared by all the businesses who will use it. So an individual bank will not be paying anything like that needed to maintain a physical branch. The idea is that they would offer essential services that people and small businesses need regularly, like paying in. It wouldn't include specialised services like, mortgage applications, but that's fine. You only need those services like for a lot of people, 1, 2, maybe 3 times in your life. So there's no issue with going to a major town to sort that out for something that you only do every 10, 20 years. We're talking about the services that people may need regularly. Now, banking hubs are not themselves a new idea. They do already exist. Where Labour come in is potentially legislating to make sure that Even small towns like the one I live in can have access to those services. For example, there's no hub where I live. I have to drive half an hour to get to my nearest bank. That is if I go at a time when the roads are quiet as well. And I'd like to point something else out. I really approve of this insistence that people should have access to face-to-face services in any sizable community, not just the big towns. But I'm much more excited about the general attitude. When people try to say that the Tories and Labour are basically the same, it more than causes my eyebrows to raise. But something like this shows on a very fundamental level the clear difference. Local banking services are disappearing. The Tories say they are disappointed with this and they call on banks to reconsider. So the Tories are saying that they are opposed to these so-called banking deserts. They're opposed to local banking services being removed from communities in small towns. So what do they do about it? They're in government, right? Well, they call on the banks to reconsider. Okay, then what? So the banks reconsider and they go, no, we're still going to close it down. What do the Tories do then? Nothing. That's it. They're out of ideas. Labour say, well, we can force them to provide these services. But not just that. They're actively promoting solutions that work for everyone. The banks can't really complain because this is not the same as the cost of running an entire branch. Banking hubs will allow customers to get those banking services, and it'll be a small fraction of the cost for the banks of maintaining those largely unused branches. And this same thinking will be applied to everything. This isn't about just one policy, albeit an important policy for many people. It's about a different way of thinking about policy. For the Tories, their thinking is that the government shouldn't really interfere. That is basically the raison d'etre for Conservatives. The government shouldn't interfere. For Labour, it's much more in tune with my attitude that actually businesses have to justify their existence to society, not just shareholders. That's where services are available. They should be available to everyone with as little obstruction as may reasonably be demanded. We get you're not going to have a banking hub for someone who lives in like a community of 3 people in the north of Scotland. We get that. But in any sizable community, there should be these services. Labour are a party who are thinking about people, not just profits, about communities, not just corporations. But there we are. That's Banking Hubs, which was promoted by Labour this week. If you've got this far, don't forget to click the like button, please, and subscribe for more content. Let me know what you think of the issues in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you later.